We're going to get started with Honors Anatomy, Chapter 1, Introduction to Anatomy and Physiology. To begin, we're going to get started with our goals or our objectives. We have 4 objectives that we're going to cover. Number 1, the first one, is describe the basic functions of living things. Number 2, we're going to explain the relationship between anatomy and physiology. Number 3, we're going to identify the major levels of organization. And number 4, we're going to identify the 11 organ systems of the human body and contrast their major functions. The 5 basic functions of living things are responsiveness. Living things respond to their environment. Growth. Living things grow. They get bigger, they increase cell size, they increase complexity, or a combination of all 3. They reproduce. They make offspring similar to themselves. They move. There's internal movement, and then physical external movement in the environment. And 5 is metabolism. Metabolism is the sum total of all the chemical reactions. Human beings obtain food, and from that they break it down into sugar, and sugar is used for cellular respiration to make ATP. Next, we're going to get started with our second objective, the definition of anatomy and physiology and how they're related. Anatomy has to do with structure or form. It's the study of the internal and external structures of the body and the physical relationship among its parts. It includes what they're made of, for example, bones and muscles, where they're located. That includes regions of the body. And finally, associated structures, which includes the accessory organs. Now, there's types of anatomy. The first type of anatomy is gross anatomy. Gross anatomy is also macroscopic anatomy. It's the large visible structures, and that's what gross anatomy examines. These would include things like our eyes, our nose, our facial features, our characteristics, things you can see. Secondly is the microscopic anatomy. That examines cells and molecules and tissues. These are things that require magnification. There's also surface anatomy. That includes the external features. There's regional anatomy. That includes certain body areas. If we talk about the thoracic cavity of the chest or the abdominal cavity, that's an example of regional anatomy. Then there's systematic anatomy. That includes the 11 body systems and studying those. There's developmental anatomy from conception to death. Physiology, on the other hand, has to do with the functions. Anatomy is the form or structure, and that determines the physiology, the function. It's the study of how living things perform their vital functions. It includes the functions of the anatomical structures and individual and cooperative functions of the systems working together. Our next goal is the level of organization. As we move, we begin with the study of the cell in our study. Cytology is the study of cells and their structures. Cyto means cell. Histology is the study of tissues and their structures. Bone tissue is a type of connective tissue. That would be an example. Then there's cell physiology, and those are the processes within the cells. Then there's special physiology. That's the functions of specific organs. Then there's systemic physiology. That's the functions of an organ system. That could include the digestive system, the immune system, the cardiovascular system. And then there's pathological physiology or pathology, which is the study of diseases. Next would include the levels of organization, which is another one of our objectives. We're going to start from small to large. The first level is called chemical or molecular level. Remember that atoms are the smallest chemical units. Groups of atoms combine together to form molecules, and molecules is next. Then we go to the cellular level. Molecules make up organelles, and those make up cells. Cells are the smallest living physiological units. Tissues is the next level, And tissues are groups of similar cells working together. For example, lymph tissue. Organ level is a specific organ. For example, the heart, the brain, the skin. An organ is a group of different tissues working together. Then the organ system level are the 11 organ systems that are working together to maintain homeostasis, and they make up the human organism. So from small to large, atoms in combination make molecules. Molecules make up protein filaments, which make up organelles, to make up cells, which make tissues, which make the organs. Next are the 11 major body systems. And our objective, which has to do with them, is to identify the 11 major body systems. So we're going to list them. We have the integumentary system, the skeletal system, the muscular system, the nervous system, the endocrine system, the cardiovascular system, the lymphatic system, the respiratory system, the digestive system, the urinary system. Then we have the reproductive system, and that could be broken down to A and B. A, the male reproductive system, and finally the female reproductive system. Of those 11 systems, let's go ahead and name the system, the major organ, and the overall function. The first system is the integumentary system. The major organ would be the skin, and the major function would be to protect against environmental hazards. Secondly, the skeletal system. The major organ would be the bones, and the major function would be to provide support and protection for other tissues. Third would be the muscular system. The major organ would be the muscles, and the major function would be to provide movement. Fourth would be the nervous system. The major organ would be the brain and spinal cord, and the major function would be to direct immediate response to stimuli and coordinate or moderate activities of the other organ systems. Next would be the endocrine system. The major organs would be the glands, specifically the pituitary gland, and the major function would be to direct long-term changes in the activities of the other organ systems. And number 6 would be the cardiovascular system, and the major organ would be the heart, and the major function would be to distribute blood cells, water, dissolved materials, including nutrients, waste products, oxygen, and carbon dioxide. And the last 6 organ systems would be the lymphatic, which the major organs would include spleen, thymus gland, lymphatic vessels, and it would be to defend against infection disease would be the major function. The respiratory system, which would include the lungs, the bronchi, alveoli, trachea, and the major function would be to deliver air to the alveoli, and that's the place where gas exchange is taking place. The next would be the digestive system, and the major organ would be the stomach, and the major function would be to process and digest food. The urinary system, where the major organ would be the kidneys, and the major function would be to excrete waste products from the blood. Then the reproductive system, if we go to the male reproductive, the major organ would be the testes, and the major function would be to produce male sex cells, sperm. And then last but not least, the female reproductive system, where the major organs would be the ovaries, and the major function would be to produce the female sex cells or the oocytes or the eggs.